Hello and welcome everybody to Quantum Prosperity and Productivity, the Feminine Way. And I'm Kavita Rani Arora. I'm your hostess for this series, and I'm an unconventional business strategist and spiritual catalyst. And I have here with me Khadija Yansane. Did I say your last name correctly? I actually didn't ask you.
Okay, it's Yansani.
Yansani. Okay. I won't forget to ask something that I meant to ask before we begin. And I really love Khadija's work. We connected through a project that she was creating in fall that was really beautiful. And I really wanted to bring her wisdom forward inside of this series because she's an embodiment of the higher vibration, the frequency, higher frequency energies that we're wanting to bring through. And Khadija Yansani is the founder of BloomIntoYou.com and the creator of the signature program, The Client Creation Queen, 8 weeks to get clients, get paid, and live your sacred calling. She has coached and consulted with dozens of Fortune 500 companies like Visa, Charles Schwab, Clorox, Robert Half, and more. And she's been trained by and worked directly with top 7-figure leaders in the coaching industry like Mama Gina and Nicole Didone. I don't know her name. Don't. Okay. And over the past decade, she's coached and trained hundreds of her clients to do things like get their first 10K month, get their first and next paying clients, create and develop their profitable niche, and all sorts of other amazing things to grow their businesses. She's also facilitated hundreds of workshops and classes, both online and offline, in the areas of personal growth and business development. Welcome, Khadija. It's so wonderful to have you here.
Thank you so much, Kavita. I'm excited to be here and connect with you. And I love your purple.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm enjoying it too. It's really fun. And I love your fuchsia, as we were saying before. And I would love to begin with sort of, we were having some conversation in the green room about like the quantum field and also just soul and, bringing like the fifth dimensional soul energies into our 3D physical reality. And I would love to hear inside of your own work, inside of your own experience, how do these concepts, what do they mean to you and how do they come to life? And even if you want to reflect on anything we were chit-chatting about, before, that would be fun. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, if I go off of what's coming to mind right now, just as you were speaking, I was also thinking masculine, feminine. I was thinking science, intuition. And I don't mean like in a either or way, but I think that they're both needed. One of the things that we were talking about before our conversation is that growing up, so my dad's a retired professor, and he stressed so hard, Kavita, the importance of the scientific method and how you have to be logical. And I was telling you that, in high school, I didn't take physics. I can't remember why, but I guess I didn't need it. I finished whatever science requirements I needed to graduate, and I didn't feel drawn to physics. And so I would describe myself as someone that has always been very intuitive and sensitive and just like guided by my instincts. I'm not necessarily someone that reads. If I want to work with a coach, I don't need a whole bunch of testimonials to tell me that they're the coach for me. I don't really read movie reviews. Even if it says that the movie's not good, I'm still going to watch it. My husband, on the other hand, which I appreciate this about him, is like before we bought our car seats, he's going to study, what's the safest car seat? What's the best vacuum cleaner? And, I think I'm alluding to the fact that we all have different personalities and are driven by different things. And for me, even though I was always an intuitive person, I always thought that the scientific way was better, and that I wasn't as smart, even though I went to Berkeley, which is one of the best schools, because I didn't take physics. And so one of the things we were talking about is that there is a way, now that there are a lot of things that you might be feeling intuitively guided to do when science can prove that it can it can relax your brain. It can make you feel like, oh, I can really trust that because science backs it up. And then when science doesn't back it up, it might feel like other people might not see it as valid. And so one of the things that we were talking about in the green room is that, you know, the quantum field and being able to have scientific explanations for things that we're thinking about. Like if you think about a Mazda and you're like, I really want a Mazda, and then you start seeing Mazdas everywhere. And so I feel like I'm digressing a little bit from your question, but I do believe that what we focus on expands, and that the more attention we put on things, and then sometimes we can think that it's just a coincidence. But I think that when you are connected to your God self, to your higher self, or if you have a spiritual understanding of the world, that it doesn't necessarily feel like a coincidence. It feels like divine synchronicity, and that it's supposed to happen, and that we can begin to view our life, you know, and there's still a place where I see things unfolding in my life and it feels like magic, or I might feel like I can't believe that happened. But at the same time, I feel like, of course, it's supposed to happen, because that was my deepest desire. That's what I was wanting to create. And I'm now seeing it manifest in the external world. And I also think when I think of like the quantum field is like collapsing of time, I think so many structures are dying now. And especially if you're watching this and you identify as an entrepreneur or a visionary leader, like for so long, when I look at my parents' generation, that it was 9 to 5, it was the weekend, you work really hard until you retire, and then you enjoy your life. So even our sense of time is collapsing, because a lot of people, one of the things that attracts them to wanting to be an entrepreneur and create their own livelihood is being able to create their own sense of time. So that's my long-winded answer to my
Yeah. No, there's a lot of richness in what you shared. And to go back to where you began, there's you know, with the, you know, and I find it really interesting. My husband reads all the reviews too, and I don't really read reviews that much. And I do a little bit now, having been with him for a long time and finding it useful sometimes. If I'm intuitively guided to like, and there are two things that are popping out at me, then I will read the reviews maybe to help me make a decision. But there's, you know, there's this way in which, you know, it's not a right or a wrong. It's like there are certain things that their minds are trained to see. Yeah. And then it's very interesting. I've also found though that like when you're coming more from that approach of just coming from the mind and trying to evaluate in that way, there are a lot of things that can get missed, right? And so, you know, it's interesting to balance and to see like, how do you bring this intuitive energy and these things that seem, you know, they're not, you can't point to it and say, there it is, right? It's energy, and you're picking up on energy. It's like how to integrate that into, well, how do you bring that into your physical existence, this kind of wisdom? How do we practically work with that? And I think that you do a brilliant job of that with the work that you do with your clients, because you're very intuitive, yet you ground those abilities and that, you know, that energy from the heart and the soul into the business strategies that you share. Does that sound accurate? Or?
Absolutely. And I love that you're saying this, because I think that when I was starting as a coach and, you know, I was working with clients, but I didn't really have a step-by-step. And I'm not necessarily saying that you have to have a step-by-step, because your step-by-step could be inside of you. It might not just be written down and you be consciously aware of it. But I think the reason that we call it inspired action is because we start from inspiration. We start with our intention, like what is it that we want to create? Why do we want to create it? And getting really clear about what you desire, what the impact is first, and then from that place. And so there are a lot of ways that people connect to their inspiration. Like I have my altar right here. I have a picture of my maternal grandparents that I pray to look over me and ask for protection and guidance. I journal. And you may have different things that you do that have you connect to your heart and have you slow down. Maybe it's connecting to your breath and getting really clear on what really wants to be birthed, and then taking the next steps that you're feeling guided to take. So it could be to send out an email, to host a workshop. And I'll talk briefly on the fact that, you know, like if you're a coach and you're still trying to create your signature program or signature process, like for me, it happened through working with people. Like working with people, actually working with clients is the best way, because you're in this co-creative dance together and you get clear on what is needed. And through that process, I was, you know, and you keep doing it over and over again, you see that there are similar things that keep coming up, that maybe people are stuck with visibility. Maybe they're not knowing, you know, they know they do some magic when they talk to people, but they don't know how to describe it. And so helping you get really clear on the benefits of that. So I think it starts first with the internal and doing whatever it is that you need to do to connect to your heart message, and then taking actions on the 3D plane.
Awesome. Yeah. And I'd love to go more deeply into this with you, because I know that you have some secrets that you share for attracting these clients online, right? And in these days, obviously, we can't do anything live, or not very much, and who knows when that's all going to open up. And yes, so I'd love to hear more about this. Go deeper.
Yeah. So I will say that my business started offline. I'm a huge fan. I've always been a huge fan of women's groups and being in women's community. And that was even before I was a coach. I just had the natural inclination to be in circles of women. And it has supported me in every stage of my life to know myself better, to mirror back to me that I'm a queen, or a queen in the making, or a goddess wherever I was at that particular moment in time. And a lot of the women that come to me are really passionate about bringing women together, just like you are, you know, like you're bringing amazing women together. Or I know there's some men on here too, but gathering, there's something really powerful that happens energetically when women come together in supportive community to uplift each other and take the next steps in your life or business. And so I would say that a lot of people think that they have to have a big list or a huge following in order to be prosperous in their coaching or healing business. And that's absolutely not true. The way that I teach is that, like, I encourage my clients to charge a minimum of $1,000 to $5,000, depending on where they're at. Some people are ready to charge more, some are not. But if all it takes is one person to reach that goal of $1,000 or $5,000, you don't need to have a huge following. And that just starting in your own network, in your own backyard with the women or men in your world is a great place to start, to let people know that, hey, I'm doing this now. Can you support me? And oftentimes I think that can get overlooked because we are smitten by what we see online, and perhaps it's easy to compare yourself to what other people are doing, but that you can start, because we all have circles of influence right where we are, and just being willing to show up and be vulnerable and share what you're doing is a great first step to get yourself out there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's yeah, it is interesting the way people people can assume, oh, you need thousands of people in order to really, you know, create success. But what you can do it with a small group of people. If you look
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, like, okay, if you're going to sell a $5,000 package, you need 20 people if you want to hit 6 figures.
Right.
You know? And you don't need thousands. You
Yeah.
just need those 20. Yeah.
Absolutely. And another thing that a lot of people in my community share is that they struggle with putting themselves out there and being visible. And I'm imagining that if you're watching this, that you probably have some type of practice already, whether it be meditation or yoga or some other practice that enlivens you in some way. And I like to approach visibility as a practice, which means that, you know, every day that you work out, you might not be fully excited and turned on to go work out, but once you do, you feel really great about doing it. And I think we can approach visibility in the same light, that we can show up and share, and that it doesn't have to be perfect, and that the more that we do it, the more comfortable we are with sharing our voice, with sharing our message, and it becomes easier. Like, I was someone that when I first got onto Facebook, Kavita, I had an alias name. And then the first picture I had of myself, Kavita, was of my back, you know? So it was of my back. And I think about that now. I looked at, I'm like, wow, like I was afraid to be seen.
Yeah.
And you can do things in small increments. And then, you know, I think part of our work here is to be fully expressed and to live our soul's calling and to share the gifts that we feel like are burning inside of us that want to come out. And the more that you do that, the easier it's going to be. And you can begin to have fun with it, because I imagine that you've started this business or your creative project because your soul wants to be fully expressed and leave something special on the planet in your wake.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, definitely. That really resonates deeply too. And it's oh, there was something you just said. Can you say like, there's a thought that I had that has now like left my brain, but there was something you were saying right before that that sparked it. So
So I was talking about taking visibility on as a practice.
oh, I know what it was. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah. That sparked it. I just needed the word visibility because, like, clearly there's a part of me that didn't want to share this, but it's kind of funny. But like, you spoke about when you came online that you know, had an alias. Well, I actually started my business under a different name because, and at the time, it seemed, I actually felt like it was a spiritual name that I was starting the business under, and that was the part of me that was starting the business. But what was also true was that I then was able to start a Facebook profile with that name. I didn't have to have anything to do with my old friends or my family, or it was only about that part of me. And it was like you know, the hiding of like, I didn't feel safe to bring together this very spiritual side of me and then this very, you know, corporate and lawyer and mainstream side of me, tied more into the matrix. And so I really identify with what you're saying of like having an alias and like, you know, it was kind of like I had my back to the other identity, you know? So, yeah.
Well, I love that you're bringing up the safety piece, because I think that you're right. It's like, I think that there can be, especially for a lot of women that I talk to, like there's this fear of being seen, you know, whether it's like being burned at the stake, some like primal memory of wounding. And so I think that part of starting small is to do it in spaces where you feel that it's safe to come out. And then when you have that mirroring, so for me, it's always been in women's community. And for you, it might be something else. Maybe it's your church community or with, you know, a coach or a therapist or something, but doing it in places where I felt like it would be okay for me to mess up, or if I didn't do it perfectly and that I knew that I was still loved, has helped me show up. And I mean, I feel like I do that to different degrees now, you know, but I feel like it's essential. I don't think like it's a nice thing to have, but I feel like part of things that can support you in the feminine way is being around groups of women and being around community who see you for who you really are, and that you can bring out those gifts where you feel like they're kind of in the closet. So I feel like a lot of people relate to what you just said, because I know it's like where you feel like, you know, I can't show this on LinkedIn because
Yeah.
I don't want my job to see, or maybe if I want to get a job, they're going to see that, or I can't do this on Facebook because my grandma's on there.
Yeah.
And then I think part of what we're talking to is like, I feel like part of our growth journey as a spiritual being is to integrate all the parts of ourselves,
Yes.
um, and be like, world, this is me,
Yes.
love
Yes.
it or not.
I'm so there with you on that. When we moved to California in August of 2015, that was when I decided I was going to use my legal name and I was going to merge all the identities and I wasn't going to compartmentalize. And actually, interestingly enough, it'll bring us full circle to what we were talking about before the interview. Like the reason that the quantum is so soothing to me, the quantum physics, the quantum field is like that part of me that feels a need to explain to the other world or the other part of me, or to prove the validity. The science allows that.
Yeah.
It's like it creates this bridge between the worlds, and so I find it to be really comforting. My mind does. Yeah.
And I think that's why it's mind, body, and spirit. So it's like, it's all the pieces, you know? So like, I feel like when I didn't have my mind, when I didn't have my mind included and like those practical pieces, I feel like I was in dreamland as it relates to my business. Like, oh, you have all these fantasies about what you want to create, but then not taking, actual steps or having a step-by-step process or having a system. So when I was saying earlier that, my father is a scientist and a science thinking person, I think by adding the science piece or those structural pieces, that then helped me become a businesswoman, because before I was just a dreamer. And I don't think there's anything wrong with dreaming, but you also feel the pain of, like, I think we need both. So it's like, when I think about clients, Kavita, like, you might notice this too, like there's some people who are really great at taking action. And that maybe they're overworking, but they've lost connection with the passion and the joy of why they started this in the first place, because they're stuck on the to-do list. And then there's some people who, they love the manifesting and the vision board and all this, but then it's hard for them to set a date to accomplish something. And I think that we need science too. We need both. And
Yes, very much so. Yeah. And it's definitely the case that some people just get sort of lost in the world of spirit, and some people get too much so they're just in the being, and it doesn't get grounded into 3D reality, the physical, as to what it is they want to create. Then they're the people who will push to create and be burned out and not have that beautiful connection. So yes, this is all about bringing those together, and I know you do this brilliantly. And I'd actually love to hear about how you bring this to sales, because I think you have a way of bringing in the soulful and the heart-based energy to the way you create sales without the things that we're used to doing, like the pushing, or not used to doing, the things that we're used to hearing about that make us turn off from wanting to sell.
Yeah. Well, I think that I would probably say that I was someone on one level that I would have said in the past that I didn't like sales, but I don't think that that's absolutely true. But I am someone who it's not my intention to be pushy. And I don't think that if you're being pushy that you are caring about the person in front of you. So I think that if you are a coach, there's a piece, if you haven't already, is that you have to make peace with sales if you want to earn in your business. And if you just want it to be a hobby and something that you do on the side, that's fine. But I think it's important to make that clear distinction that you want to do this as a business versus it's just something. And I'll give you an example. So like, I'm trained as a doula. And I was really passionate about learning about childbirth around the world when I was in college. And I knew that I wanted to have a home birth, and I did. And I did assist some women in childbirth. And I realized, well, like, I don't really want to earn money doing this, Kavita. And it was really hard because I had a teacher that I really loved. And I had to get honest with myself and being like, I wanted this information for me, and maybe I might support some people in my life if it feels right, but I don't want to sell or market it. And so I think you should ask yourself, like, do you want to sell or market the thing that you feel passionate about? You might not. And then the second thing, I think that the qualities of a good coach or guide also apply to sales. It's not like we throw those things out when we have a sales conversation. So the great qualities of a good coach is, number one, you're a really good listener. You're listening at multiple levels. You're not just listening to the words they say. If you can see them, you're paying attention to their body language. You're paying attention to their voice. So you're actually listening. You were curious. So you're trying to find out what it is that they want. So like, I think about, I know sometimes sales, we think about car salesmen, although there are some incredible salesmen who sell cars. But like, if they're being a good listener, they're trying to think about your lifestyle. So like, if you have a baby or you just had a baby, they might not be advising you to get a sports car. You know, they're going to probably advise you to get a Volkswagen or something, like if a concern of yours is being hurt. So I think the qualities of a good coach are the same qualities that we bring to sales, and that the sales interaction, it's a mutual thing. I think sometimes people are worried about taking advantage of the person. Kavita, I don't know about you, but I've never met a coach who was just like, can you teach me how to take advantage of people and take their money? Like, I've never, like, I have never met that. And I feel like a lot of the people who worry about being pushy or salesy are actually the people who are not salesy and pushy, and they could actually afford to stand in their leadership a little bit more and support the person in front of them to make a decision. Because part of the reason why someone hires a coach is because you want to get further than you can get on your own.
Yes.
So that's what I mean by pushing. So it's not pushing someone outside of a realm that's unsafe for them, but supporting them to step outside of their comfort zone so that they can have what they want. And then also helping and supporting women to practice saying yes and no, you know, like, yes, I want this, and no, I don't want this. Kavita, I think that I used to be a person that would avoid salespeople because I was afraid to say no. Now that I'm not afraid to say that's not a fit for me right now, I can get on the phone with somebody. Right? And so I think with sales that we want to get on board with what it is that we're selling. Like, do you really feel good about what you're offering? Do you really feel like it can transform someone's life? Do you really think that it can help them achieve the goals that they're setting out to achieve? If you know that in your heart because you've gone through that process yourself, or other people have gone through that themselves, then you know that you are presenting them an opportunity to have quantum results in their life, business, health, relationship, whatever it is. And trust that the person on the other side is like, we're adults, will say, no, I don't want this right now, or this is not a good fit. Like, I just don't know that many people that are going to spend thousands of dollars on something that they don't want. They're going to find a way, whether it feels honest or not, to say that they don't want that. So I think part of it too is a little bit of codependency and feeling like over caring for the person. So I think we definitely want to be caring and get on board with what you're offering, because what you're offering is transformation.
Yeah.
So,
Wonderful.
and that makes sure that you're serving the person and that you're leaving them better off than when they got on the phone with you. So even if they choose to not work with you, that they have a next step that they can take to continue to get results in their life.
Yes. Beautiful. Yeah, what you're describing really is a how inside of the sales conversation, it's about listening. It's about, tuning into the desires of the other person, seeing if, what you have can actually help them with that. And if you can, then it's a disservice actually to not offer it. So yeah.
I'll say too, Kavita, that a shift that happened for me, I remember I think it was 6 years ago, I signed up for an online program and it was $97 a month. So I think it was probably, yeah, for the year. And that was a big investment for me at the time, and it was a leap of faith. And when I finished that program, I was so thankful to her, Kavita, that she put out this program, that I was able to find her. I think I saw her through a Facebook ad. And I was just like, my breakthrough, I was like, oh, wow. So she took the time to put this together. She made herself visible, that my clients are going to feel the same way about finding me. I was so grateful. I learned so many things. I got comfortable doing video.
Yeah.
Her workshop, and a lot of the tools that I learned in that I still use today. So I think that a lot of times when we're thinking about pricing, people can think like, oh, is that too much for 3 or 6 months? But I think a good coach stays with you just like a good teacher for the rest of your life, So I'm still implementing things that I learned 6 years ago in my business.
That's awesome. I love it. Wow, you shared so much great wisdom with us today. And I'm sure that some of our listeners are going to want to go deeper with you. So please share with us the beautiful free gift you have to go deeper with these topics. And you all, if you want to check it out, it's going to be right below this video.
Awesome. Thank you, Kavita. So my free gift is called 5 Keys to Get Clients from Home Doing Work You Love. Of course, it applies to offline when the time is right for us to be doing more things offline. But if you feel challenged by putting yourself out there, if you feel like you're still trying to figure out what your offering is, you're really going to get a lot of value from this masterclass. And I hope you check it out.
Well, thank you so much. It sounds awesome. And I really appreciate so much of your wisdom with this juxtaposition of the 3D and 5D and bringing in the higher vibrations into our bodies so that when we're inside of these connections with potential clients and doing the edgy things that we need to do sometimes in order to grow ourselves and our businesses. It's just really valuable tools that you've offered to help us be more visible. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kavita. And just, it's so true that it can feel edgy. And I love what you said about getting into your body. Like, I'll listen to music, I'll dance, even before like sending off posts on social media. And then it's like, it's imbued with that energy. So whatever you do that gets you into a high vibration before a sales call, or, sharing posts that could be vulnerable, be sure to make time for that.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Khadija. It's been wonderful to be with you today.
So fun.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Until next time.